So, to start off today's deep dive, I want you to try a quick thought experiment with me. Right now, wherever you are, just imagine that you are, well, the absolute only person on Earth.
Oh, wow. Just totally alone.
Yeah, exactly. You look around, and there's literally no one else. What happens to your motivation? I mean, why would you bother painting a beautiful canvas if there are just no eyes around to ever see it?
Right. Or, why compose a symphony if there are no ears to hear it?
Exactly. Or invent some brilliant new piece of technology if there is no one there to actually use it.
It really fundamentally changes the nature of everything we do, doesn't it? I mean, if you really play out that scenario, there wouldn't even be a reason to travel from one place to another.
Because wherever you arrived, it would feel exactly the same as where you left.
Empty. Yeah, life without anyone else to share it with just kind of strips away the fundamental drive behind human creation.
It strips away all of it. There would be no pleasure, no joy, really no context for anything you achieved. And that stark image really sets the stage for what we are digging into today.
It's a great setup.
Thanks. Because I'm your host and joined by our resident expert. Our mission for this deep dive is to explore day 3 of Rhonda Byrne's book, The Magic. The focus today is specifically on what the source calls magical relationships.
Yes, magical relationships.
And we really want to understand why our relationships are the ultimate source of joy and meaning in our lives. We're going to look at the somewhat startling science of gratitude, and then we are going to break down a very specific, actionable daily practice to transform our connections.
It's a crucial topic because when we follow that opening thought experiment to its logical conclusion, we realize that without other people, life inherently lacks purpose.
Yeah, it's our contact and our shared experiences with others that give our lives that spark.
Exactly. And the text we are analyzing makes a really bold claim right out of the gate. It says that if you want to receive the life of your dreams, you have to understand how your relationships are functioning right now.
Which makes sense, right?
Oh, absolutely. They are the single most powerful channels for gratitude to enter and begin, as the author puts it, magically changing your life.
So we've established the why. We need relationships to give life color and meaning. But naturally, that brings us to the how. Like, how do we actually maintain them?
And this is where the text starts bridging the gap between ancient spiritual wisdom and modern science in a way that I found really compelling.
Yeah, I thought that was a fascinating intersection. Because, for centuries, the great sages and spiritual teachers have told us that gratitude is the key to a good life.
Right, it's not a new concept.
But now, as the source points out, science is actually stepping up and confirming that wisdom.
Research studies are consistently showing this now. People who actively practice gratitude have significantly closer relationships.
They're more deeply connected to their friends and family.
Yeah, and interestingly, they are viewed much more favorably by other people in general.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because while being grateful sounds nice in theory, the source material drops this staggering statistical rule that honestly just stopped me in my tracks.
The ratio, right?
Yes, the ratio. It says that for every one single complaint about another person, and get this, whether that complaint is spoken out loud or even just a fleeting thought in your own head, there have to be 10 blessings for that relationship to actually flourish.
10 blessings.
10. And if there are fewer than 10 blessings for every one complaint, the relationship is going to deteriorate. The text even notes that if it's a marriage, it will most likely end in divorce.
It's a heavy statistic.
I have to push back here, though. 10 to 1 seems like a really steep, almost impossible ratio. Let's say I get slightly annoyed that someone left their dirty dishes out on the counter.
A classic annoyance.
Right. Do I really owe them 10 genuine compliments to break even on that one tiny annoyance? Practically speaking, how do I find 10 distinct things to be grateful for when I'm currently fuming about dirty dishes?
It sounds exhausting when you frame it like that.
Isn't there a risk of this feeling totally fake or forced?
What's fascinating here is the sheer gravity of a complaint. You have to understand the mechanism behind why the ratio has to be so heavily skewed.
Okay, lay it on me.
You have to look at how human beings are wired. We have an evolutionary survival mechanism, often called a negativity bias. Our brains are literally designed to hold on to negative interactions, threats, or complaints.
Because historically, ignoring a negative threat meant danger.
Right.
Like getting eaten by a tiger.
Precisely. So when you complain about your partner or a friend, that thought doesn't just pass through, it sticks. It carries a dense, heavy emotional charge.
So we are basically biologically programmed to over-index on the bad stuff.
Exactly. So you aren't just breaking even with those 10 blessings. You are actively having to overwrite a baseline survival instinct. You need a massive, disproportionate amount of positive interaction to overpower the natural gravity of that one single complaint.
Wow.
If you don't overwhelm the negative with the positive, the relationship just naturally sinks.
That makes so much more sense when you explain the biology of it. It's not just, putting equal weights on a scale.
No, not at all.
It's like dropping a single drop of dark red dye into a clear glass of water. Just one drop of a complaint immediately colors the entire glass.
Oh, that's a perfect way to visualize it.
Right. You can't just reach in and take the drop out. You have to pour in 10 times as much clear water just to flesh out that tint and get back to clarity.
That is exactly it. The complaint literally alters the environment of the relationship, and it requires an overwhelming flood of positive focus to clear the water.
Okay, so that's the external mechanics.
Yeah, and devolving from those external mechanics, the actual back and forth dynamic with another person, the source material takes a really profound turn inward.
Generating those 10 blessings doesn't just manipulate the relationship.
No, it fundamentally rewires the person who is practicing it.
Right, the text argues that this practice changes your own internal temperament. It promises that regardless of how you might act right now, even if you are someone who tends to be cynical or easily annoyed, consistently practicing this level of gratitude will build a profound well of patience.
Patience, understanding, compassion, kindness, all of it.
And it happens to such a degree that you might not even recognize yourself.
And this directly addresses your earlier concern about the practice feeling fake or forced at first. The text suggests that forcing the practice initially is what eventually rewires your genuine perception.
So the fake it till you make it approach actually holds up here.
It really does. Those little irritations you used to feel, they just vanish. You basically become too busy being grateful to criticize, complain, or blame.
The text literally says you lose the ability to even see the things you used to complain about.
Which sounds like magic, but again, there's a mechanism at play here, right? Absolutely. Think about the cognitive load of complaining. If you spend your mental energy looking for flaws, you are training your brain to constantly scan your environment for threats and annoyances.
You are literally curating a miserable reality for yourself.
Exactly. The source connects this to the law of attraction. Whatever you think or say about someone else, you bring to yourself. Complaining actually harms your life.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Reading through this, I realized it's like putting on a pair of emotional noise-canceling headphones.
Oh, I like that analogy.
You tune out the static of annoyance, the buzzing of small complaints, and suddenly you can only hear the actual music of the relationship. The good stuff that was always there, but was getting drowned out by your own brain scanning for flaws.
It is like noise-canceling headphones, yes.
Yeah.
But it goes a step further because it actually amplifies the specific frequencies you want to hear.
So you aren't just blocking the bad.
No, you are actively tuning your brain to seek out and magnify the good. And the great sages understood this mechanism. They knew that for your life to expand, you absolutely have to be grateful for others exactly as they are right now.
Not as you wish they would be.
Right. Not their potential. Them right now.
There's a quote from the playwright Thornton Wilder included in the text that beautifully captures this internal shift. He said, "We can only be said to be alive in those moments when our hearts are conscious of our treasures."
It's a brilliant inclusion. It defines being alive not as merely a biological function, but as the active, conscious act of appreciation.
Yeah, if you aren't conscious of the good around you, you are essentially sleepwalking through your relationships.
And to wake us up, the author follows that quote with a really powerful what-if scenario.
I love this part. I want you listening to this right now to actually imagine this for a second. What if every single person close to you came up to you today and said, "I love you, just the way you are"? How would you feel?
You wouldn't feel defensive. You wouldn't feel inadequate.
You would just feel this immense relief and warmth.
Exactly. And today's magical practice is essentially flipping that scenario around. It's about you generating that exact feeling for the people in your life, being grateful for them just as they are.
But I want to acknowledge something here. Shifting your perspective like this is incredibly difficult, especially in long-term relationships where resentments have been building up for years.
Decades even.
Yeah, it's not a switch you can just flip.
It is incredibly difficult. When resentments have calcified, The water in that glass we talked about earlier is very dark,
Super dark.
which is exactly why the source doesn't just tell you to be more grateful in a vague sense. It provides a highly structured, almost rigid daily practice to force that clear water into the glass.
So let's get down to brass tacks. Let's transition to the practical application of day 3 called magical relationships. Instead of just reading down a list of steps, let's group this practice into 3 distinct phases.
That sounds like a great way to approach it.
Phase 1 is what I would call priming the mind.
Right, because before you even touch on your relationships, the source requires you to carry over a practice from day 1.
Which was making a list, right?
Yes, you make a list of 10 blessings in your life. Write down exactly why you were grateful for each one, and then reread that list. After reading each blessing, you say the words, thank you, thank you, thank you, and genuinely feel that gratitude.
So you are establishing a baseline. You can't just jump straight into fixing a frustrating relationship if you are in a bad mood.
Exactly. You have to prime the pump and get your brain into a receptive state first.
Okay, so once you've done that, we move to phase 2, which I'll call anchoring to the physical. The text asks you to choose 3 of your closest relationships, maybe your wife, your son, and your best friend.
And here's the kicker. You must collect a physical photograph of each person.
This is a critical detail. I was wondering, why a physical photograph?
Because human thought is inherently chaotic. If you just sit on your couch and try to think nice thoughts about your sister, your mind is going to drift.
Oh, for sure. You'll remember an argument, or you'll get distracted by what you need to buy at the grocery store.
Right. A photograph takes gratitude out of the abstract realm. A physical face bypasses the swirling thoughts and grounds your emotion to a tangible reality.
Which leads perfectly into phase 3, structuring the gratitude. You sit down with those 3 photos. You spend some time thinking about their best qualities.
Like their laugh, their wisdom, or maybe a specific time they supported you.
And then with the photo in front of you, you physically write down the 5 things you are most grateful for about that person. But the source provides an exact formula you must use.
Yes, the formula is non-negotiable. It is, thank you, name for what?
So like, thank you, John, for always making me laugh, or thank you, Mom, for supporting me through college.
5 times for each of the 3 people.
But why do we have to write it out in that exact formulaic sentence? I mean, why can't I just look at the photo and feel a general sense of appreciation?
Because of how the brain processes language. When you force your brain to structure a specific sentence, when you have to fill in the blank of for what, you are moving gratitude from a fleeting emotional feeling in your amygdala into the prefrontal cortex, the logical center of the brain.
Oh, wow.
You are forcing your mind to identify concrete evidence of their value. It makes the gratitude a logical truth, not just a passing mood. It forces specificity.
You are literally building a case for why you love them.
Exactly.
And then we hit the final phase, which is all about closing the loop throughout your day. You were instructed to carry those 3 photographs with you today. Put them in your bag or your pocket.
And at least 3 times today, you have to look at the photos, speak directly to the person's face in the picture, and say the magic words, thank you, name.
Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, do I really need to talk out loud to a photograph in the middle of my workday? I had the exact same thought. It feels a little strange.
It does feel strange, but that friction is intentional.
Yeah.
Keeping those photos with you is like building a cognitive speed bump in your day.
A cognitive speed bump.
Yeah, every time you reach into your pocket for your keys, you hit this physical reminder. It interrupts your standard, perhaps stressful, thought loop and forces a micro moment of targeted gratitude.
So you're flushing the glass with clear water all day long.
Exactly.
And then the day concludes with one final loop closer.
Mm.
Before you go to sleep, you hold what the book calls your magic rock, a physical token from day 2. And you say thank you for the single best thing that happened during that entire day.
It creates a brilliant sandwich effect. You begin the day by priming your mind with 10 blessings. You focus intensely on specific relationships in the middle using the photographs, and you end by identifying the peak positive moment before sleep.
You are completely enveloping your day in conscious appreciation.
Yes.
So, what does this all mean? When you step back and look at the whole picture of this deep dive, it's really about taking gratitude, which we so often treat as this hazy, soft concept, and weaponizing it in the best possible way.
Weaponizing it. Yeah, I like that.
You are taking it out of the abstract. You are holding a physical photo, looking at a real face, and using a linguistic formula to name 5 distinct, logical reasons why their existence makes your life better.
You are systematizing appreciation. We now know about the negativity bias. We know about the gravity of a complaint. You cannot leave the vital 10-to-1 ratio up to chance.
No, you really can't.
This practice is how you actively manufacture the clear water required to tip the scales in favor of flourishing.
It's incredibly powerful stuff. So let's do a quick recap of the journey we just went on today. We started by exploring how relationships are the true source of meaning in an otherwise empty world.
We uncovered the vital 10-to-1 ratio, realizing that complaints carry heavy evolutionary baggage and require a massive amount of intentional blessings to overcome.
We looked at the inner alchemy of gratitude, how writing down specific blessings shifts your cognitive load so you literally stop scanning for flaws.
And finally, we walked through the physical photographic practice to magically enhance 3 of your closest connections today.
It's a lot to take in, but it's so actionable.
It is. But this raises an important question, though, and something I want to leave you to ponder.
Ooh, okay.
The source explicitly asks you to start this practice using photographs of 3 close, important relationships. But what if, after mastering this practice with your loved ones, you eventually applied this exact same visual, deliberate gratitude, searching for 5 hidden blessings, to a relationship in your life that currently feels difficult or fractured?
Wow.
How might that shift your reality?
That is an amazing thought to sit with. Applying that emotional noise-canceling headset to someone you usually only hear static from and forcing yourself to find the music. Well, you have your mission for today. Grab those 3 photos, find your 5 things, and see what happens when you actively change the environment of your relationships. Thank you so much for exploring this deep dive with us, and we encourage you to try the practice today. See you next time.